Welcome to the Cannabis Technologist. I'm Christina Etter. As we know, consistency is key in the cannabis industry and for cannabis production. However, consistency between cultivation facilities can be difficult to achieve. How do consumers know if the Blue Dream that they're buying in Nevada is the same as the Blue Dream that they're getting in Michigan? Today, I'm speaking with the senior management team of TriGrow Systems, David Kessler and Trek Manzoni. They hope to help cultivators achieve this consistency with this all-inclusive end-to-end cultivation solution. Hey guys, welcome to the Cannabis Technologist. Tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you together, what your role is with TriGrow, and what TriGrow is offering to the cannabis sector.
Sure. Thank you so much, Christina, for having us on today. TriGrow really came together because we saw a need in the industry for that consistency of product. Unfortunately, as you've already addressed, consistency of both the strain name as well as the flower itself from one iteration of cultivation to the next really is quite varied and inconsistent throughout the industry as a whole. So it was looking for a solution to that very problem, and a solution that happened to be scalable that brought the team together to really focus and deliver a solution that satisfied those needs.
My name's Trek Manzoni, and I joined the TriGrow team this year. We actually started a new division, TriGrow Brands, and as David mentioned, one of the things that TriGrow Systems really focuses on is delivering a consistent consumer experience and a consistent product. As you mentioned earlier, one of the biggest problems in this industry right now, especially from a branding standpoint, is how can you deliver that consistent consumer experience? How can I build a brand if in Washington State the experience you have with my brand is different than the experience you have with my brand in Michigan or in California? So TriGrow Systems was really developed to help solve those problems, and TriGrow Brands is kind of the other side of the coin, developing the first truly national and global portfolio of brands that can deliver that consistent consumer experience.
Gotcha. And then tell us a little bit about your role in particular with the company and what it is that you do.
My role is Senior Vice President of Horticultural Solutions. I sit on top of the Horticultural Division as well as the Supply Division. The Horticultural Division involves deployment of all of the technology to all of our client and operating partners and ensuring their success. The Supply Division takes over 7,000 products and over 600 brands and offers them to the cannabis community as a whole, using that economy of scale purchasing power to further lower the costs of the inputs for our cultivation partners, making them more successful and resistant to things like price compression in the market. Very
nice. And Trek?
I'm the Senior Vice President of Branding, and I focus again on brands. A little bit of background and history on me. I've been in the cannabis space for a little over 10 years. I got involved in cannabis because my father had a stroke, and some of the traditional medications weren't quite working for him. He was getting different, issues and side effects that were happening. So we started looking to cannabis as another option for him. And I started in the cannabis space by actually opening up one of the first licensed cooperatives, as they called them, in Washington State that actually wrote medical recommendations to patients. And we work with tens of thousands of patients, and opened up actually 4 or 5 different retail locations and had one of the largest cooperatives in Washington State. During that process, I got into the media side of things and was one of the co-founders of Dope Magazine. And through that process, I really got into branding and learned a lot through looking at expanding the Dope Media brand. I founded another company called the Holden Company that established a portfolio of brands, Western Culture, Dog Star, Waxter, not to name a few, and those brands are licensed and sold up here in Washington State. Our operating partner, Hanna Industries, started working with TriGrow Systems, and one of the interesting things actually is Hanna Industries was fully permitted and ready to go and build out your traditional grow, regular rolling tables, double-ended bulbs. And TriGrow has an awesome service where they'll actually allow you to submit the plans of your building, submit some basic information, and they'll give you a free estimate and a free quote on what it would look like to use their systems. So Hanna Industries, our licensee up here in Washington, actually decided to move forward and bring TriGrow Systems on board and build out their 30,000 square foot facility with TriGrow Systems. And during that process, I started to work very closely with David, with Nicholas Cooper, the CEO and founder of TriGrow. And one of the things that they were lacking and wanted to really get into was the branding side of this. So we formed TriGrow Brands. They brought me on board as the senior vice president. We had a small team that was already working with the holding company and kind of merged those teams together to create, again, what is now TriGrow Brands.
Okay. Fabulous. So let's talk about what TriGrow is actually offering the cannabis industry. We've seen different types of software systems to help with grow automation, but it appears that TriGrow is offering more than just that software solution and that automation package. So tell us a little bit about your hardware, what the packaging involves, and how does that contribute to your consistency?
Absolutely. It is an end-to-end cultivation solution. And although we have purpose-built software and hardware, it's really the end-to-end solution that we were looking for, where every single piece is designed in-house using a system engineered approach so that there is absolute smooth and seamless operation of all of the parts working together. A lot of operators currently are buying more of a best of breed. We're going to buy the best lighting and maybe the best air conditioning system and so forth, but getting those to work seamlessly together can be very challenging. So TriGrow offers an end-to-end cultivation solution that is really designed and purpose-built to work together. So in terms of delivering the consistency, it's consistency of product and process. So the hardware is designed as small growth chambers, which are very granularly controlled for the environment. A lot of the variation we see in the cannabis produced today comes from what we call phenotypic plasticity, or the impact of the environment on the expression of genes. And so for a plant, which unlike an animal, if the environment is hostile, would probably move to another area with a less hostile environment, plants don't have that opportunity. So what they have done is they've evolved this plasticity to react to their environment. So if a season is unpredictably cold one year, the hardier plants that are more responsive to cold will continue to thrive and provide DNA to the future generations. So in order for us to maximize the consistency, what we really wanted to do was really tightly control the internal cultivation environment and then be able to reproduce that time and time again. So the software takes tens of thousands of data points across the cultivation life cycle of each plant, and the hardware is actually able to reproduce those small, possibly even anomalistic environmental changes to thereby provide the growing plants this incredibly consistent environment. And it's that consistent environment which leads to the consistent outcome. Now, that's the consistent environment, but we also have a partner where we test the strains, because as you alluded to in the earlier part of the interview, Blue Dream in one state or even in one dispensary might not be the same as the Blue Dream being cultivated in the dispensary right next door. So by having the genetics tested, what we're looking for is a verification of the genotype, the actual DNA. And once we have that, we can use our software to optimize the cultivation for that particular genetic, and then to reproduce those particular parameters which were best suited for maximizing the potential of a genetic through the hardware. And so it's really the combination of the hardware and software working together, along with scientific information like the genotype of each individual strain, which allow us to deliver that high quality, consistent end product.
I think it's interesting too, because one of the things that I think is special about TriGrow Systems and special about the hardware and the software is actually the software and the brain that runs things. Because as David was mentioning and alluding to, is it's one thing to have a controlled environment. It's one thing to say, I can set my humidity to this, I can set my temperature to this, you know, I can have my nutrient feed be this, and I can basically have that same consistency. That's something that, you know, other, you know, operators can offer, other facilities can do. But it's really tracking the data and finding out those granular differences where you can specifically and almost perfectly recreate the results. And that's what that software system does, is it monitors, like David was mentioning, tens of thousands of data points over, the 8-week, 9-week, depending on how long the genetic needs flowering cycle. It saves that data, and then every time I grow Blue Dream, the system will grow it identical to the way that I've set the parameters. And another really interesting and exciting part is you can change those depending on how you plan to use the flower. So for example, if I'm growing UW Purple, and that is going to be used to be sold, as flower in a jar directly to the consumer, I might grow that differently than if I was going to turn that into a concentrate. I might want to run it a little bit longer, which might, change the actual bag appeal or look of the flower because it's run a little longer than that strain needs, but it's going to bring out the best terpene expression to create a more flavorful extract. So that's one of the exciting things, is you can dial in each strain depending on how you're going to use that cannabis as well too.
That is absolutely fascinating, the way that the hardware and software work together in this system to ensure that consistency. We know that being able to predict the end results of a crop is critical, and I think probably getting more critical as with the Farm Bill passing and different things going on in the CBD industry. I'm sure that we're going to see some new regulations come down from the USDA and the FDA regarding how CBD is also produced in dietary supplements and nutritional aspects. So it's going to be interesting to see how these types of technology solutions help with that down the road. But now when we're talking about this market that is proliferating so quickly with the changes in laws and things that are happening, being able to make these predictions is going to be critical. So talk about how the software is able to help these cultivators with making those accurate forecasts. From what I've read, it seems that the TriMaster software really kind of optimizes this data for them. Is that correct?
It does. TriMaster presents multiple different views. So a facility owner would get one view that has a lot of analytics about production, scheduling, compliance, whereas a facility manager is going to be much more interested in the current state of the environment for cultivation and how staff resources are allocated. So aside from that, there's a really phenomenal algorithm that TriGrow has developed involving scheduling. So first, if we look at a traditional method of cultivation, most cultivation facilities, what they'll do is they'll have a separate vegetative area, and then they'll have, say, 8 flowering rooms, assuming a typical 8-week flowering period for the cannabis plant. They'll harvest 1 room each week and refill that room. So every week there's a consistent flow of product. The problem with that approach is there's almost always multiple genetics in that room, and whereas one genetic might be ideally ripe at 72 days and another at 59, if the room is always harvested at day 60 regardless, then not all of those genetics are reaching their genetic potential. So what our algorithm does is it allows the input of all of the data from the genetic assay of the genotype all the way into the cultivator's input on where they think the temperature should run, where the humidity or vapor pressure deficit should be, how long the flowering period will take. And then we program that into the algorithm, and it kicks out essentially a schedule, which taking into account all of the different VFUs, our vegetative flower units or growth chambers, are available to the cultivator. It tells the cultivator and the owner when to plant, when to take cuttings, when to irrigate, when to defoliate, all of the tasks associated with cannabis cultivation. And in doing so, it optimizes the use of real estate on a per square foot basis for the entire facility based on some input from the owner. So for example, if they're interested in a signature strain that has to make up 40% of the production, then we can lock that 40% in. However, the algorithm afterwards is going to say for the remaining 60% space in the facility, it will make recommendations of allocations of different strains, when to plant those, to really maximize the potential output of each individual facility based on what they're cultivating while still providing that high quality of consistency and high quality product.
And to piggyback on that a little bit too, David kind of talked about taking that plant and really, you've got a signature plant that maybe needs 72 days, maybe needs 68 days, and being able to have the software system have an algorithm that kind of controls that. Another really interesting aspect of the software as well too is, since you have these units that are basically 4 feet by 8 feet by 8.5 feet tall, and you've got, for example, the facility in Washington that we're building out is 20,000 square feet warehouse, 10,000 square feet of office and processing. In that 20,000 square foot, I think they're going to have around 170 of these individual units. So you can now take a signature strain, for example, Super Lemon Haze, that's one of the Washington signature strains, and you can really play with that strain now and put it in 4, 5, 6 of these grow units and say, okay, usually I grow this strain 9 weeks. That's really all the time that I have to play with. I can guess a little bit before the 9 weeks if it needs to come down early or not. But now you can really play with this strain and say, okay, let me put it in 4 units and let me do, one at 68 days, one at 70 days, one at 73 days. Let me go crazy and put one at, 80 days, whatever it may be, depending on the strain. And within a 2-month period, you can basically get months and months, if not years of research done and find out, okay, my Super Lemon Haze gives me the best expression and the best look exactly at these days. Now I'll tell the computer system to grow it that way, always moving forward. So the ability and the flexibility you have to learn your plant is leaps above where a traditional grow has 1, 2, 8 large rooms, and you really don't have the flexibility because you're on a schedule to truly learn your plant and your genetics.
That's incredible.
And if I can just add to that, with each VFU or growth chamber being fully independent, like Trek was saying, you have the ability not to just study the longevity of the flowering period, but variations in temperature, humidity, vapor pressure deficit, irrigation frequency, fertilizer application rates. And because each individual growth unit is recording all of its own independent data points, once the, outcome, once the harvest has occurred and the test data comes back, we can then look through those data points and find out where it tested best, how it looked best, how it grew best, and come up with an optimized grow plan, as TriGrow calls it, which is really just the cultivation recipe. How do we want to, on an ongoing basis, cultivate each individual genetic? And by having these separate cultivation environments, it really allows us to gather that data quickly and then to put it into practice very efficiently as we move forward.
Absolutely fascinating. I am very, very impressed with the technology. So what kind of results actually are you seeing then in the field? Now, from what I understand, you're getting ready to fire up a pretty large operation in Nevada, correct? And so kind of tell us about how that process is going, and then talk a little bit about the scalability of TriGrow.
Sure, yeah. So one of the great things is the scalability of TriGrow Systems. And one of the great things about the business model, and I think it's important to mention this, is TriGrow Systems isn't plant touching, right? It's similar to the Coca-Cola model where TriGrow Systems works with operators. It sets up a network, a national and a global network of operators, and it's their facilities, their licenses, and they're touching and dealing with the plant. So it allows us to scale much more rapidly. Instead of having to go into one state, spend, millions of dollars to build a facility, spend a year or two, dial that facility in, get it up and running, move to the next state, we can be working with 5, 10 operators at a time and expand at a rapid pace. So right now, as you mentioned, we're in the process of bringing on board the largest current TriGrow facility in the greater Las Vegas area. That facility is scheduled to have, I believe, just under 200 units. They're building that out in phases. So phase 1, about half of that is complete right now, and they're getting ready to come on board and be live and put plants in the facility in the next month or so, if I'm correct on that, David?
Even less, actually. The next couple of weeks, we'll have plants going in. And as that facility was designed in phases, to your point, Christina, about scalability, because each of the units is independent, we can start with, say, half of the units destined for a facility, build the infrastructure to support a future expansion, and without interrupting the cultivation process, be able to ratchet up the overall production very quickly in response to demand. And through relationships with some partners, channel partners that have a lot of software that is for customer retention in the dispensary side, we can actually, in response to changes in trends and demand, get that data fed into our cultivation software and respond by providing, say, increased output of Trek's Super Lemon Haze because the market has picked up, the demand has picked up. And so having all of that together really influences the scalability and how quickly we can respond to changes in the market as they happen.
Yep. And so for right now, instead of just focusing on building out the Las Vegas facility, TriGrow Systems is currently building out a facility in Las Vegas. It's building out a facility in Washington. It's in talks with multiple other facilities across the West Coast. It has contracts with facilities in Puerto Rico, Australia it's in conversations with. So, you know, it's working on 5, 6, 7 different facilities right now with a pipeline of facilities all to come online within the next 12 to 24 months.
Wow. So explosive growth is on the horizon for TriGrow then.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
Which is a great segue. So what is on your future horizon? What kind of things are on the R&D horizon for TriGrow? We obviously know the cannabis industry is not going to slow down anytime soon. And with the passing of the farm bill, the hemp and CBD industry is going to take off. So where do you see TriGrow here in this next few years and in the future?
Well, TriGrow looked to make a decision early on. Did we want to utilize the technology as operators ourselves, or did we want to make it available to the cannabis community as a whole? We understand that innovation is an ongoing process, and that if we were locked into being an operator, our focus would really be split between regular and routine daily operations as well as trying to innovate. So with that in mind, we chose to innovate because we saw the value in continuing to move forward. TriGrow's general approach is to look at what contributes to the cost of production and then focus on those high line items to bring those costs of production down. So our next step, the future, is really about building a network of partners in every legal state and every legal country and bringing them on board. As Trek alluded, you know, it's very similar to the Coca-Cola model in that we are not plant touching. We have the technology. Coca-Cola has 250 bottlers worldwide. They're not making and packaging every bottle of Coke. So we see ourselves as providing the technology and being an ongoing partner. We don't just sell the technology, we monitor the cropping cycles, much like an alarm center might monitor individual homes. We also continue to provide software updates and physical personnel if needed, training, whatever comes. And so with that goal and with that set of, I guess, mutually aligned interests, we're looking to expand our partner network globally.
And as David mentions, you know, innovation is very important. You know, we're in a very rapid industry. We're in a very growing industry. You know, everybody that's inside of the cannabis industry jokes all the time, and it changes all the time on saying, you know, half a year in the cannabis industry is like a year, and then 2 months inside of the cannabis industry is like a year, and then a month in the cannabis industry is like a year. So the growth is crazy. So you always got to be innovating. So as David mentioned, you know, really dialing in the system is one of the things that's important for TriGrow. Collecting data. You know, we've talked about data a lot, but it's really now what do you do with that data once you have it? So another big thing that TriGrow is focusing on, and again, TriGrow has been in the background for the last, you know, 3 years or so, really developing this technology and working in stealth mode with a couple key operators. And it's just recent that we've kind of decided to go out to the public and announce ourselves, because we wanted to make sure that the technology was dialed and that we could really, you know, deliver on what we say we could do. Some of the original founders of the company have spent almost a decade working in the vertical farming industry and bring a wealth of knowledge to the cannabis industry. But with that knowledge, with that data, and with that innovation, what we've done now is we've formed TriGrow brands. And so the next big step for TriGrow as well is launching the first truly national and global portfolio of brands that can basically offer this consistency that everybody's looking for right now. It's hard enough, as we alluded to earlier, for an operator in their own grow facility to produce the same results from harvest to harvest. When you start talking about taking that from state to state, it's near impossible. So that's really one of the benefits that TriGrow Systems brings. So putting a portfolio of brands behind that, being able to deliver a portfolio of brands to the consumers, whether that's a woman-facing brand, a medical-facing brand, an active cannabis consumer-facing brand, a baby boomer-facing brand. We're really looking at all the segments and trying to find out what are the important segments and where to target the consumers, and use this data, use this technology as a backbone to create this global network of operators and global portfolio of brands.
Fabulous. I'm always so impressed with how far ag technology has come in the last several years. I think the cannabis industry contributes to that, but it's just fascinating to me. It's only going to grow from here, and only time will tell just how far the cannabis and hemp industries are actually going to take us. So it's really an exciting time to be a part of the industry, that's for sure.
It is, absolutely, especially like you mentioned with the Farm Bill and the Hemp Bill and CBD and medical opening. It's crazy. It's a once in a lifetime or generational opportunity to be at the forefront of an industry. And that's one of the things that, initially got me excited about too. I mean, how many industries can you be involved in where you can work on legislation, where you can make change, make a difference, and change the face of an entire industry. And with the power of this plant, it sounds a little hippie, but I believe in the medicinal power, and I believe in the potential compounds that live inside of this plant that we haven't found yet. Some of the medical benefits they might have. And that's another exciting thing about TriGrow is when you look at it from a medical standpoint too, if this turns into a true medicine, it's got to be much more dialed than it is currently right now. So it's a very exciting time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, David and Trek, both for joining us today at Cannabis Technologist. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you and hear about the technology advances and where we're heading. Where can our listeners find more information about TriGrow Systems if they're interested in getting in touch with you?
Absolutely. I'd be excited to hear from the members of your audience, and please feel free to reach out to me directly at david@trigrow.com. That's TRIGROW.com. Would love to answer any questions that they might have, or just have some discussions about that consistency and quality product. So thank you again for having us. It's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
And from the branding side of things, if anybody wants to reach out and get a hold of us and talk about our portfolio of brands and the ability to license those brands, feel free to reach out to me directly at Trek, Trek.Manzoni, Manzoni, at TriGrowBrands.com. Love to talk to you and give you any information. And again, it's a pleasure being on the show. Awesome to meet you, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys. Thank you.